Okay, yes. So based on the dev environment that we have created, right? Like I was saying, there are about 25 licenses that are, attached to this particular environment, which means at least we can create up to 25 users and license them. So what I'm suggesting is rather than each person are using their different dev environment, of course, you could create it to give it a try and have access to it and all that. But maybe for the purpose of some practicals and all that we are going to be doing, we could just use the same environment and I'll create some users, on it and assign licenses for each person so that when we are creating apps, we can all have access to the different apps. Maybe you want to demo the app, you want to test with other people, you can share with them and all of that. So that's the essence of having this. So if I go here now to the admin center, right? So this admin center on Office 365 is where you can, manage a whole lot of things. Okay, so if I go to active users, for example, so I'll see the list of users. Remember that when we were creating the other one, we said I said it should create some sample data. So it was one that created all of these, random users that I have here, right? So, but I can always come back here to add a user if I need to create any user, give them the first name, last name, the username, which will be at this dot on Microsoft. So this dot on Microsoft will always be there when you are using like a developer account. If you are using the original one, you might have to buy a domain where you will change it to the name of your company domain. So that when you are creating anybody, it will be at your company name.com and the likes. So I can put all of this information, assign licenses to them, and do all of those things and give them a password and role and set it up. So what I'll probably do is to have each of us that are interested to be created on this environment so that when we are creating our apps, we can all share and have access and, maybe test with other users within the environment. Because, so one other thing again is that when you are using the Power Apps and Power Automate, because it's meant for use within the organization. So it's not like the usual applications that anybody can have access to or download from Play Store. So it's kind of confined to users within that particular tenant. So they call this Microsoft 365 tenant. So what we have created, for example, for this developer account is a tenant, right? So if you create a different one, it's another tenant on its own. So which means you see that everybody that is on this section, any have here, they all have the same at this.com, right? So if I create any other user, they will all be, so all of them are under this particular Office 365 tenant. So if we need to share any app or we need to communicate, you can easily share with anybody that is created here. But if I need to share it, I might not be able to share with people outside of these tenants. So what this will help us to do, having these users, everybody created here, is in case we need to do tests, we need to do demo and all that, everybody can have access to the app and all of that. So I don't know if that works for us or if it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that should work for us, so we can all have access to the same application or work on the same application at the same time. And that being said, we still have to consider those that actually showed interest. At the moment, we are about 4 years. I think on the platform we are about 13. So you cannot just go ahead and create accounts for those that are actually not interested. So I think it should be based on those that actually show interest.
All right. Thanks for that. Okay. So like I was also explaining in the last video, so you can see that there are a couple of applications here, that exist on the Microsoft 365 platform. It's not just the Power Apps and the Power Automate and the likes. So there are a lot of different other applications that are meant to be used, within an organization for productivity and co. But you can always integrate these different applications together to build your solution. So when I'm using, for example, Outlook now, Outlook is the default one for email, right? Just like you have like your Gmail and the like. So this one, Outlook, is for email on Office. When I'm building my app, I can integrate it. I can build an app that with Power Apps, automate it with Power Automate, and it will send an email from my Power Automate to my Outlook, right? I can create Power BI dashboard. I can connect to my SharePoint. I can connect my Power to my. So all of these things that you are seeing here, you can always integrate them together. Each of them has their own different functions. However, they can all come together to form a wonderful solution. You can integrate them. You can easily connect this one and pick information from this one and connect to this one and all of that, which is the beauty of having this platform as well, the Microsoft 365 platform. So most of the things we are going to be dealing with, of course, we will use Outlook because we'll be sending out emails, notifications, when you are building an app and all that. Then, of course, we've talked about our Power Platform, which we are also going to be using. Then probably Teams, we are going to be using List, we are going to be using SharePoint, because SharePoint is another interesting solution which we are going to be using. So it's mostly going to be serving as our data source. So SharePoint on its own, it has a lot of functionalities, right? It's within the organization, what they use it for is it serves as intranet, to serve as a document storage, and all that. So, for example, you can see that this now is more like a website, but it's for internal use, not like a public website. So here now I can come here and design it. I can post information about events that are happening, within the organization. I can put documents. I can put a lot of things, basically relating to the organization. And different departments can also create their own sites. So maybe this one is a general site for everybody. People in IT, for example, can create their own sites whereby they can, connect and post information relating to IT alone, and they will be the only ones to have access to it, right? People in HR can do the same, people in accounting. So that's what SharePoint, helps you to do. So you can use it it can serve as an intranet, right? It could also serve as a document storage system, whereby you can store documents. So you can see here now we have something called document library. So you can add and share with other people, within the organization or within my team. So that is another thing that SharePoint helps you to do. Not sure why this keeps loading. Okay, yeah. So you can see that here now I can create a new document from here, or I can upload if I have any document or folder that I need to upload, to this place. Then we also have something called a list, which we are going to be using very often in this our class. So a list.
Sir, something called what?
Sorry?
Something called what, sir?
SharePoint lists.
Okay, SharePoint list. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So this SharePoint list will be used, we are going to use it, very, very well, because it's going to serve as our data source in most of the apps that we are going to be building. So data sources in the sense that everything we are building has to be, every information you are saving has to be saved somewhere. So for example, when you go online and you fill a form, right? You fill a form, you put your name, you put everything. All you just do is go there and click on submit, right? But that information is being saved somewhere. For example, I believe we all have Facebook accounts, Twitter, and the likes. When you put all of those information, it means it's actually somewhere, because when next you need to come in, you have to log in, right? And when you are logging in, you put your username and password. So there is a particular database, right? That information will be checked from to see if, okay, your username and password matches with what you are inputting. So if you put a wrong username or wrong password, it will tell you that it's wrong. So that's more like a backend. So in this class, we are going to be dealing with the front end and the back end. So the front end is the aspect that everybody can see, any user can see, right? Anybody that is even not a developer, ordinary user will see it on the screen. So they can click and do this and do that. So that's the front end aspect of it. So when I'm doing this now, all these things we are seeing now, I can click on this, it takes me here. All of this is front end, right? But there's another thing that we are not seeing. So when I do something, when I click on submit, something is actually going on, in the back end. And it's maybe submitting the information somewhere, putting up my anything I've imputed in my form or something, is submitting everything. So that's the backend now. So why I said we are going to be using this SharePoint list is because we are going to be using it more as our database. So let's say I want to build an app whereby people want to request for, like travel requests. Maybe anybody that wants to travel, you want to request, okay, I'm traveling from Lagos to Abuja. I'll be traveling on so dates. I put in all the information that are necessary. All those information, when I submit, it has to be saved somewhere so that the application can pick that information from there and send it to the necessary person that needs to approve. So maybe when I submit my travel request, my manager needs to approve. All this information I've imputed, it needs to go to somebody. So this is going to serve as our database, which is why I said we are going to need it very well. So I can go here now and create a blank list. So let me just quickly create that so we see. So we'll just call the name of the list test, and let's say create.
Please, you are here to share your screen again.
Oh, apologies. Okay, can we see it now?
Yes.
All right. Yes, so I think we stopped at where we're putting the name of the list. So all I did was just click on create. So once you create a list, it will take you to a screen like this. So you have the title field by default. So what the list looks like is the list is basically for storing information. I'm sure most of us are familiar with Excel, right? So the list is similar to the structure of the list is similar to the Excel, where you have rows and columns. So when you are creating a table that has like headers, then you have different items on different rows. So it comes by default with the title field. Then you can add additional column. So the good thing about the list is that you can decide what type of data you are going to be putting inside that column. So for example, we have the single line of text, multiple line, location, and the likes, right? So depending on what type of information you are expecting in that column, you can decide what you want to put here. the type of column you are going to be selecting here. So, for example, if I'm expecting the name of a person, right? I can put a single line of text. If I'm expecting maybe a description that could be very long, so like this single line of text, I think it take up to like 255 characters or so. So if I'm expecting a description that could be much more longer, I could select multiple line. Then location, maybe I'm expecting them to put in a particular address or location or number. If I'm expecting the number, let's say I'm creating a field where people will put in their age. Of course, I know that age should not. I can't be 3A years old, right? It should always be number. So that kind of prevents them from just entering any data, because if I select single line of text for name, right? It means for age rather, it means anybody can just come in and select 5x as their age. But when I select number, it means it will restrict them from strictly imputing numbers. Yes or no, maybe I'm expecting a field where people should only have either yes or no question or true or false or thereabout. So this person field as well is also a unique field on SharePoint where you can select other people. So for example, I was talking about us creating all of us on these tenants, right? So if I have this person field, I can easily search for anybody within this. I can easily search for anybody within these tenants, right? So let's say I want to select somebody as my manager. Maybe I want to build an app and I want to select this person as a manager. I can easily search for the person's name and it just suggest to me, right? Date and time. Maybe I want to put date and or time. I'm expecting a field that will be date or time. Choice for drop down, just like we have this one. Now, when I click on this, you can see that I have different options. So if I have a field where I'm expecting different, I have specific options that I'm expecting. So let's say I'm creating an app where I need people to select the states. So I was talking about the travel request app, for example. I can say I can create that as a drop down because I already know the number of states that we have, in Nigeria. So instead of them typing manually Abuja or Lagos, they can just select from the options in the drop down that I would have specified, in my choice field. Hyperlink as well, currency, image, and there are, a few other ones too that we'll also, be looking at as time goes on. So that is what this SharePoint list is going to be for. So let me just create, let's call this maybe name. Name, and I save that. Let's say age as number. Maybe state of origin. I just want us to see how this SharePoint list works. So let's say I have Lagos, I have Oyo, I have Abuja, and I can, add more choices and put all of that. But I won't do that because of our time. So I can save this. So if I try to create a new option, a new item here, you see that I have all the fields that are already created here. So let's just say this title is test data, and I put my name, and I put my age, and let's say my state of origin, and there is this attachment field. So in case you need to add, so it comes by default on SharePoint. In case there's a need to attach any documents to support this particular data, so you can save. You see that once I save, it comes to this particular row. So if I click on new and I submit another one, it comes to the next row, and that's the way it keeps, going and going. And I can go back here and, edit this in case I need to change anything. Let's say I need to change this to Lagos, and I save, right? And I can always go back to add additional columns if there is need for that. So that is the way the SharePoint list works. So all of this now, we are going to be using it later on when we are building our app, because this is going to be where we are going to start from. Based on whatever app we are going to create, we need to set our database, which is going to be this SharePoint list, put in all of the information that we have, the columns, the rows that we want. Then we can go ahead and create our app from it and connect that app to this data source, such that when I go to Power Apps and I fill a form, the users will not actually be interacting with this SharePoint list. They will be interacting with the app. So from the app, this will now be the backend. So the app can connect to this database, submit to it, retrieve information from it, and do all of that. So that's what we are going to be doing in our subsequent classes. So I don't know if anybody has any questions so far from this.
Oh, well, for me, I have no question. I'm okay with it. At least with my little knowledge of programming and database, MySQL and all that, I'm okay with it.
Right. Thanks. Any other person?
Okay, so good evening,
So
good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Samson.
So for me personally, I feel I'm way behind because this is like the first class I'll be attending and all. But for all of that which we have you've explained this night, I don't think I have any issues with it, and I think it's clear to me. All I would just need is just to practice. Then, if I realize any error, any difficulties, I can try reach out. I guess that's my own state right now. Thank you, sir.
all right, thanks. I think you might need to also maybe watch the first video. Maybe we'll drop the link again for the first video that's like the introduction. I don't think you've really missed much. So we've had like 2 classes so far. So the first one was generally introduction to the Power Platform, right? So which is just like basic introduction so that we understand what this is, what this does, and all that. And the second one we just had was to how to create this developer account, because normally this environment that we have now is being used by organizations, right? And they pay for it on each user. So the cost might be quite huge, right? Depending on the type of license you are using anyways. So they pay for each user per month. So for each user you have, for each license you have, you are paying on it per month. So, but we don't have, as developers, we don't have that luxury of, especially when you are just trying out something. So which is why Microsoft has also created this developer program, so that people who want to learn development can actually still have access to what people who are paying for it to still have access to. All right. So you can then use it as your own test environment where you can, test a lot of things, make changes, and do a lot of things, so that in case you now maybe get a job relating to that along the line, you're already familiar with that environment, and you can start building apps for other companies and the likes. Okay, you are raising up your hand. You want to say any other thing?
Yes, sir. I've actually heard you use the word license for a while, and I don't think I know what that means, sir. Can you please give an
Okay. All right. So what license means is So, like I was showing here, for each user that you are creating, for them to be able to have access to all of these applications, you can see that there are a lot of apps that are here. Each of them has their different functions. I'm sure you are familiar with maybe Excel, Microsoft Word, though the difference here is that they are online and not on-premise, the one you install on your system, right? You can easily, so if I open Microsoft Word now, I can just create, you can see that I'm on my browser now, and I don't have Microsoft Office installed. But here now, I can do almost the same thing I will do. You can see that the environment is the same as what you are familiar with on Microsoft Word, and I can type, I can make changes and all that. And the interesting part of it is that it's online, right?
Okay.
It's in the cloud.
Okay.
And I can share this now with somebody else. So for example, if you already, let's say you have an account already within this environment, I can just share it with you now. And we'll both be working on these same documents at the same time. And I'll be seeing the changes you are making. So if I share this with somebody else now, the person can be working on it. I'll be seeing what that person is typing real time without having to wait. You know, if I was going to, if let's say two of us need to work on this document and I have to work on it on my system, what it means is once I install, once I make changes on my own, I need to maybe send it to the person via mail or something. Then the person works on the
Yes, sir.
document and send this back to me, and we keep sending back and forth. Rather than having that, we can just both be working on it. I can say, okay, I'll be working on the page one, you'll be working on the second page, and all of that. So, which is very much possible here. Same with the likes of Excel. So, the interesting part is that this Microsoft 365 is in the cloud. However, it is not free, right? It is not free because of this, all of these features that you have. You know, even the Microsoft the one we install on our system is not actually free, right? It's people buy for it. It's just that, you know, a lot of people also, you know, get the cracked version and all that. So this platform itself is not free. So when I talk about licenses, what it means is when organization, so an organization can buy this Microsoft 365 platform for their organization, right, to use it. But depending on the number of people that you have, and you want them to also have access to this, you need to buy a license for each person, right? So if I have 50 people in my company, that means I need to buy 50 licenses. If I have 1,000 people, I need to buy 1,000 licenses, as long as I want all of them to have access to all of these applications. So I can now assign those licenses to each of those people. So I assign one license to this person, I assign another license. So that license is what will give them the ability to be able to log in and access all of these applications. So what the license means is that you are purchasing that from Microsoft, you are paying for it. So the payment is monthly, it's not a one-off payment. You are going to be paying monthly or yearly on each of those users that each of those licenses you are buying. So once you buy the licenses, then you have access to give it to anybody within your organization. So for example, all the users that I have here now, you see that they have licenses. So if I try to edit a particular user, right, you see the licenses and apps. So you know, I mentioned that we have like 25 licenses because this is a test environment. So there are about 25 free licenses that are already assigned to this environment. So it means I can create at least up to 25 users within this environment, and I can assign those licenses to them. For them, I can create more users, right? But the problem is if I don't assign licenses to them, they won't have access to all of these applications. They might have access to a few of them, but not all. So that's what we talk about when we are saying licenses. I hope it's clear.
Yes, sir. Very, very clear, sir. I understand, sir.
Thanks. Yes, somebody else wants to ask a question.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to ask, like you were showing us the Microsoft Word, okay. If I want to share with someone, must the person have a developer account, or must the person Can I just share to anybody?
Okay. Good question. So you can share with external people, right? So I can share with somebody else that is not, within this my platform, and those people will also be able to edit it. But I think it has to be, it could be another Office 365 accounts, like a different tenant. I mentioned that this one now they call it a tenant. So it could be a different tenant, or it could be a different Microsoft account. But I think it has to be a Microsoft account. So you can see that anyone with the link can edit. Okay, so I can even share with yeah, okay, great. So you can see that we have the option that, okay, I want to share it with specific people with existing access, or people within this my tenants, because this is the name of the tenants, or anyone with the link. So if I share this with anyone with the link, that means the person will be able to edit it. So as long as you have that link, then you'll be able to make changes on it. And I can decide that I don't want them to be able to also edit it. Maybe I just want them to be able to view. So you can see that I have the option to just view. So which means if I share this with somebody, they will only be able to view, they won't be able to make changes to it. Yes. So you can actually share outside this particular environment.
Wow.
All right. I think Ebube was raising her hand first.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Today, thank you so much for this.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to ask. So you just took us through a SharePoint, something like a backend thing where they impute their data and then it goes to the backend side. So do I have to connect this to my app? Is it compulsory I connect it? And is there, without me doing this that you just taught us now, is there an automatic way it can just go to an Excel sheet without this being created?
Okay, thanks. I think I get your first question clearly. For the second question, I'll try and answer it just in case I didn't get it. So the first one is, yes, you need to connect this to your app, right? There's a faster way to actually do that, which you will also be looking at later on. So you can see that there is an option to integrate, right? So I can quickly integrate this to Power Apps and create an app directly from here. So if I create an app, it will automatically connect to this particular data source and just create a simple app for me that I can connect this my app to, and I can submit to this list, and I can pull information from this list and all of that. So it's important that you connect, because if you just build an app that is not connected to any data source, it means all you are just going to be doing is you are just going to be playing around the app. You can just be moving from one screen to the other within your app, but you won't be putting the information will not be stored anywhere. You can create, there is something called collection though. You can create a temporary place where you'll be storing your data within your app. But it means once you close the app and you open it back, you've lost all of those data. So, but if you need to save it somewhere, then you need to connect it to a data source. SharePoint is not the only data source we have, by the way, right? But that's what we are going to be using most of the time. You could also connect it even to Excel sheets. So I can build an app that will be submitting or updating information on an Excel sheet somewhere. So you see that I said that we have Excel here as well. So I can create an Excel sheet now, and I'll connect my app to it so that it will be updating that Excel sheet. So that is very much possible. There are other data sources like SQL. There's one Microsoft thing too called Dataverse and the likes. Might also be looking at those ones much later on, but the one we are going to be using mostly is this particular one, because some of those other data sources too, for you to connect to them, it might require some additional costs. right? But this one already is free because it already comes with the Microsoft 365 package. So that's why we are going to be using this, and it's very easy to use, very flexible, and all of that. Okay, then your second question. Could you come again with that?
Second question, I think you've almost answered it here. That I have to connect. I was thinking like, without me connecting to any data source, is there an automatic way? But you said I have to connect it to data source. That means so, no, right? Thank you.
Right, thanks. Okay, so you can go ahead, sir. I think you have your answer.
Yes. Okay, I like to suggest that just as you suggested earlier, that to create a user account for all of us.
Yeah.
And I like to suggest that at least for some of us, for the number of us on this class now, can create a user. So just as we were trying to work on the Microsoft Word document, we could do something practical with it in real time. Others have their system with them. I guess I'm the only person who does at the moment. And I can always do that with my phone as well. So at least it's not just that we sync in the information, but we can do a bit practical every time we have a class like this. That is one. Secondly, I want to ask if Google Form, because from some of these things you're doing now, most especially with the SharePoint, I realize that there are two things I'm familiar with on Google Form. I want to ask, is it similar? Is it the same thing, or it only has few similarities? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. For the first one, yeah, it's well noted. I think before the next class, I would have created those accounts because it's quite important that we are also practicing as we are doing this, so we don't forget, and we can also practice, like you mentioned, share documents and make other people tests. We'll do that maybe in the next class as well. So then the second question. So Microsoft also has mostly equivalent of what Google has, right? Google also has their own kind of Excel, Google Sheets. They have Google Docs that works like Microsoft Word. So both of them have like Outlook now. Outlook is like your Gmail because it's also for receiving email. So they have like equivalent of whatever Google has. So for Microsoft now, Microsoft Forms is their own type of Google Forms, and you'll see that it's quite similar to what you do on Google Form as well. So you just go ahead, create a new form, put all the information that you have, add the text, the questions, the choices, and all of that. So it's very similar with what you have on Google as well. So if you can use Google Forms, I'm sure you can, of course, definitely use this as well to create your forms. And so what makes it much easier in this environment is it's easier to integrate because they are all still Microsoft's platform, right? So it's easier to integrate from one to another. So for example, now I can use Power Automate to create something such that when I create a Microsoft Forms and anybody fills the form, I can say Power Automate should go and pick whatever information that person has submitted and drop that information on this my SharePoint list that we have created. So it's just pick all of those information. So like maybe the name, state of origin, and all that, because not everybody will have access. You have to have an account, probably within this tenant to be able to access those SharePoint lists, for example. So if I need people to fill in the information, outside of this environment, I know everybody can always access Google Form. I can share this with anonymous users. So I can decide if only people within my organization should be able to respond, or anyone can respond. So if I put anyone can respond, it means anybody that has the link can go to that form and fill it. So I can use Power Automate now to build something that will pick the information that was filled there and go and put it in maybe my SharePoint list and all of that. So that's the beauty of having everything around Microsoft here. But I think it's quite similar to whatever you have on Google as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, you have answered my question. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
I remember that in the production class, said that some of these licensing are quite expensive, and that is why they have a developer page for those that want to learn. Now, if these applications are quite similar with Google, do you have information if Google's app or creating an app on Google is free? My reason for asking this question, and I hope I'm not actually jumping the guns, my reason for asking this question is that in the meantime, if you have an idea to create an application which will serve as a solution to an organization in a form of proposal, let's assume that you realize that in the educational sector there is a problem, and you have an idea of creating an app that can easily solve the problem, and you want to do something like a template that will serve as a proposal to get mobilization, to probably buy the necessary licensing and do the app the actual way you are supposed to do. Can this Microsoft 365 afford us the opportunity of building an app for free that can be used as like a pilot test? Or do you have an information if Google can do such? Do you understand my question?
Okay, yes, I think I do. Yes, very good question. Yes, so if you need to do like a pilot, maybe you need to do a proposal, like you said, to a particular organization or something. Yes, Microsoft allows you to do that, right? Just like we have this developer account now, I can build any app within this that would, function the way I want it to function. So let's say I have an idea of building a particular solution, maybe a leave request application or expense or something that solves maybe a school problem. I can do all of that within this my development environment and demo to them. And if I need them to test, I could also maybe create an account for them within this environment for them to be able to use and test. So with that, they can do all of the testing within this environment, or optionally, if they seem much interested, you could also create a Microsoft 365 account for them. So apart from the developer account, there is also, if you want to also start using Microsoft 365 for your organization, I think there's about 1 or 2 months free that you can also create so that the organization can use it and it will have all the full functionalities. You can test, you can use all of the features within your organization, and maybe then decide later on that, okay, this solution actually works for us, then we can proceed to purchase at any point in time. So with that, you can use these environments now to create such an application. So, and the good thing is, if you have an application created on your test environment already, you can always import those applications to another environment. So if you have an application here and they have another Office 365 tenant, you can just import the solution and export the solution here and import it to that other environment for them at any point. I hope I got the question correct.
Yes, very correct. Thank you.
All right, sir. Okay, so are there any other questions before we close for the day? Okay, I'll take that as a no. All right, so in the absence of any other questions, I think we will stop here for today. Thank you for coming around. Yeah, so before the next class, as I said, we'll try to create the accounts for us so that we can all have access to this environment, and we can do some testing so that probably while we are even in the class, we can be building your apps, you can create your SharePoint list, you can do all of that from there. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.